We begin tonight at the National Assembly, where some lawmakers say the resolution of southern governors banning open grazing may trigger more division in the country if not carefully implemented. They spoke with Arise political editor SUMNER.
Lawmakers resuming plenary after a 2-week break to mark Muslim festivities. Arise News engaged some of them on the resolutions by southern governors which banned open grazing in the south, the request for a national dialogue on restructuring, and demand that President Muhammadu Buhari addresses Nigerians on insecurity and growing agitations for secession.
Personally, I don't believe in secession, no. I believe in restructuring, and I believe we should be able to talk. If you are talking in terms of population, we are not as populous as China.
As to avoid all those clashes, the best thing is where they ought to be, let them be where they ought to be, while farmers can go about their normal businesses. Because I think that unless and until such decisions are taken, government will not take anything about this issue of headers and farmers clashes, anything. They won't take it seriously. People are dying every day. So many people have died, and it appears that even those who are supposed to know are not even saying anything about it.
For the sake of peace, if the Southerners and the Southern governors believe that open grazing is responsible for the wars, I also vote that let them outlaw it. But again, that is a crazy approach.
Two former governors who are now senators speak on the southern governors' demand for state police to tackle insecurity and the need to stop what they term divisive politics.
I know the abuse is like in every situation. A case we have seen is one of the cases where these issues is abused. So we cannot use one particular issue and then generalize. So we still believe that the issue of state police is the best for this country.
Open grazing is no longer feasible. That is the brutal truth. Even in terms of enhancing the productivity of our livestock, there is a need for us to embrace modernity, to embrace science and technology. The southern governors were very moderate in their disposition. I don't even want to call them southern governors. They are Nigerian governors. And we should foster issues that unite us rather than hammer on issues that divide us.
We need to sit down together as a collective because it's an existential threat for everybody. Either by way of state police, which has been adopted by the southern governors. Rufai report adopts that. From as a last count, all the governors, nobody is against state police. The issue is to work out the modus operandi.
Many grumbling senators who were aggrieved by the statement of the Senate President Ahmad Lawan castigating governors, especially those of the South, over their stand on open grazing and restructuring could not bring up the issue at plenary, contrary to what some of them have said behind closed doors.
He didn't say he's talking on behalf of the Senate. He was accosted and asked him, and let me be honest with you, another personal opinion, what he said to me, he said, look, if you are talking of restructuring, let's start from you.
The National Assembly is holding zonal public hearings on the review of the 1999 Constitution from next week in the 6 geopolitical zones of Nigeria and Abuja. The federal lawmakers are urging Nigerians to voice out their demands for restructuring and other issues there. SUMNER, Arise News.
All right, we have SUMNER live here in the studio, political editor, Arise News. Thank you so much for joining us. SUMNER, I mean, you were there as plenary opened today at the National Assembly, specifically the Senate. Do you get a sense that what the Senate President Ahmed Lawan said about southern governors, calling for the ban on open grazing is actually a plan to further widen the fault lines that already exist in Nigeria?
Now, from the body language of many of the lawmakers, they are actually unhappy with that view, but those views have been clarified internally that they were actually the personal views of the Senate President, not that of the institution, that these views these questions were posed to him, and he actually answered it from his own perspective, saying that the governor should actually start from home first, by ensuring that there are enough local government reforms, and then ensure that there is judicial and parliamentary autonomy within the states then before they start talking. But considering how the issue had boiled all across the country, many of these lawmakers had said that, look, the next constitutional review exercise that will be coming up, especially with the zonal public hearings that will start from next week, is an avenue for Nigerians to actually take advantage of that opportunity to bring out memoranda that will address the issues. And if you look at it very well, the Constitutional Review Committee, especially of the Senate, had clearly spelled out that they do not want the problems of Nigerians being thrown at them. They specifically want solutions. What is the way out? So even when you're submitting your memoranda, you have to be specific as to the kind of demands you want, the solutions. Okay. Don't go to the Willings Commission. Don't go to what happened in 1914. What needs to be done in terms of state police, what needs to be done in terms of the status of the Federal Capital Territory, what needs to be done in terms of, for example, revenue allocation, fiscal federalism and all of that, saying that, look, these demands should be sent directly to these zonal hearings from next week.
Okay, so was there a feeling that the statement of the Senate President seemed a bit divisive for the country? Was there that feeling?
Yes, a lot of them, I mean, so especially some of the southern senators, and even some from the north. I mean, that actually made me to actually feel happy as a Nigerian that some of the senators were not seeing it from that angle, from that prism, but looking at the critical issues that are there. What are the institutional reforms that need to be undertaken at the moment to salvage the country from where it is? And some of them were actually saying that while they do not want to come to the open and have interviews with us, it's because they don't want to think that they don't want the Senate President to think that they are personalizing what he has said. Because they said the issues that are before them as an institution right now is bigger than the entire country and even the National Assembly. And so the National Assembly has to weigh the mood of the country at this point in time, and being the institution that needs to create those reforms, not give the impression to the public that most of the memoranda that will be submitted or the suggestions that will be made to the institutions will just fall flat based on the comments of Ahmad Lawan. Yeah, so they are very specific in saying that the Senate President should know the fine line between his views and what the institution stands for.
And that's the point. Should he have made that statement in the first place, that those calling for restructuring and ban on open grazing are actually secessionists?
Well, those of them that we spoke with who wouldn't want to come on camera actually are very emphatic in saying that the Senate President, as the head of the legislature, shouldn't have said that, because it looks like he was propagating the views of the executive and being the institution that is in charge of creating these reforms. Because whenever you talk about all these issues, restructuring, demands for all of that, the presidency will refer you to the institutions. And so a lot of people felt that that wasn't good to have come from him, because it was more of like a death knell on the reforms that people are asking for. But what is very good right now is that the senators are beginning to look at it as a pan-Nigerian problem. Look at what a former governor, who is now a senator, Shetima, was saying, that look, he is even commending the governors and looking at them as Nigerian governors and not southern governors, because some of the issues they raised are germane. In this period of time, we shouldn't have, headsmen moving from different parts of the country. Let's look at the economics of cattle rearing and how it can benefit the country. And then talking about state police, it's a welcome development. Talking about fiscal federalism, a lot of the states need these monies. But the thing is that there needs to be a consensus too, because some of these things, even when the National Assembly passes it and sends it to the state, you need 24 out of 36 states' House of Assembly to pass it. So if the governors do not organize their people and organize their feelings, there's a challenge that may lie ahead. And if they don't get 24 out of 36 on each of the issues tabled before it, then at the end, the restructuring will be dead.
So what do you make of this seeming cause for the impeachment of Ahmed Lawan? Is it just a mere distraction?
Look,
they're saying there are 3 grounds on which they plan to, to impeach him. Refusal to release funds for lawmakers. At the committee level, they don't even have funds, to function. And of course, his unbridled support for the president. How can, there were fears that he was going to be a rubber stamp Senate president.
Yes. One of the surprise that we had for us today is that when we got to the parliament, we had expected some things to happen at the chamber, but it looks like the Senate President was very tactical in ensuring that the senators were met even before they arrived at the National Assembly to ensure that once they get into plenary, it will be a smooth sailing. And nobody, for example, stood up to actually raise such an issue, which is a kudos to him, because other former Senate presidents wouldn't have dared such talk and then come into plenary, and then you'll be expecting everywhere being calm. So as it stands right now, many of the senators are just discussing in silos, and especially the opposition senators. We had expected that the PDP, for example, will be the one that will bring up this issue, because even the APC had kicked against their governors' meeting in Ibadan, where they were saying that, look, these guys were just discussing issues that shouldn't have been discussed, that there are more serious issues. But that didn't happen. So some of these senators are aggrieved and talking in silos. We are just hoping that they will continue to actually ventilate these issues, because they also need to let the Senate President know the feelings of their constituents. And that's what some of them were saying, that some of them are afraid to go back home and be pushed back by their constituents, that how come the Senate President was saying this and you couldn't defend our interests? Our interest is that we need restructuring, and this country must restructure.
Okay. All right. Time for a short break. Thank you very much, SUMNER SAMBO, political editor at Arise here. Thank you.